go. There we go.
2-0.
3-0-1-0. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Oh man, that was turned down. All right, let me do it again. That's not cool at all. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome and hello. Welcome back, everybody. This is There Will Be Dungeons, a show where we play D&D with each other, and 5 friends try to not die. The DM doesn't ever die, but the other 4 of us, we never know what our lives are going to look like. Boy, isn't it good we have some nice, fresh tea to sip on while we're playing. Yeah, that's right. If you go to phoenixpearltea.com/TWBD, you too can partake in teas that are based on our campaigns. Do it today. That's phoenixpearltea.com/TWBD. And now, without further ado, I pass the baton, as it were, to Kristen, who will tell us what happened last time on There Will Be Dungeons.
Stanley's ghostly uncle gave the gang keys of the ship, ending eventually in a secret section that revealed Stanley's father's face. Varel pressed for a private party parlay, which they took in the captain's quarters. He wanted to check on Rozek Val before expanding their expedition. A throng of 30 lizards looked on as their great fang descended a dinghy. He bade them join the journey to Mars. After the jump in a biodome, the lizards took to new territory while the gang met with the man who had last seen the Triangulosphere's main maker. Coordinates to a planet, and then Pentelweiss promised the final piece needed to mend the machine. Afterward, a meeting was held with the elves focused on figuring the formation of a fight that loomed large. Now rejoin our heroes as they contemplate combat. What will they wager in war? Where will the coordinates complete? And will Stanley forgive his father's formative face? Stay tuned for the continuing conundrums and perilous paths of space.
Over to Bo.
The heroes of the waste: Nash Maggard of the Solar Mines, Varel Rasvim Kurik, Queen Orifi Hope Akmenos, and Stanley Billings, otherwise known as Valir Ornoth, are in the great jungle of Mars, and they are walking through this forest en route to a meeting at the Great Elder Tree of Mars. Oh no, the name I forgot. Damn it.
It was...
Sumar Slinar.
That's it.
Sumar Slinar. It's just a tough one to remember. Sumar Slinar. So there's this large weeping willow style tree towering over the rest of the jungle, high up into the air, providing this natural canopy. So even though sun is poking through the tree, it's mainly shaded and kind of dark, but the glow of the jungle is keeping everything so that you can see it. In this large glade in the middle of the jungle, underneath the tree, is an auditorium. It's made of dirt and twig, and you walk between 2 aisles to enter into a circular seated area all around, about 5 rows high. Populating these rows are mainly elves, Elhandari elves in their customary black one-piece uniforms, and the room doesn't really take any obvious notice as you begin to walk through this passage between either side of the benches. Notably, the view as you look up is beautiful as sunbeams shine through the jungle down into your face. The other thing that you immediately notice is who all there that is not an elf, because they jump out to you immediately with how uncharacteristic they are. Seated somewhat by his lonesome on the first row, just beyond on the other side of where you're entering, there's an orc. This orc doesn't wear a shirt. He has dark green skin. He's wearing a bandage over his eyes, and he's carrying 2 katanas and a blunderbuss. And he's seated with legs down patiently. And you recognize him. You met him long ago in the days of Slavetown as the Nameless One, the leader of the Liberator ragtag crew that was sheltered in the dead fingers for a time. Brings back a memory of something maybe awful to Stanley and Hope. Also, what can't escape your notice is behind him, not seated on the bench, is a large figure that was in shadow, but now that you're in the room, you can see him. There is a large Cyclops sitting behind, one eye, hands on the top of the last row of the benches, one eye looking down at the proceedings. Seems to be sitting very patiently. You also see among them 3 birdmen. You've seen birdmen before, such as Nothing and Kittigree, but these birds have white and brown feather and look regal, adorned in armor, seated and discussing with each other in quiet and looking around at the alien surroundings they may find themselves in. That's your impression of their behavior. Finally, amongst the elves, you see Riddle Nobieri, seated in an area with some space for you to sit, and about the 3rd row to the right, in the middle of, in sort of the middle section of the seating. High Elf Amanthalodar is sitting in his chair, patiently observing, seemingly in reflection. And Admiral Chrysorius, leader of the Elven and Elhendari army, is standing to attention, waiting for things to begin. You walk into this auditorium area and take in the view. It seems that things will begin soon.
Was that the orc that I bit his nuts through the car?
No, that was Steel Nuts.
Oh, that was Steel Nuts. Okay.
Sir Steel Nuts.
They weren't so
This is
steel at
the,
all.
the guy who was in charge of that resistance camp that was hidden.
Oh,
Where you went and
guys
hunted
killed-
a
Edna came
bear.
from.
Yeah, where
Oh,
you killed
yeah.
the dude with a rock.
Yeah, we killed the guy with the
Yeah, that was great.
What was his name again? I don't remember, but
I don't care.
It's been a long time.
Dead by
But
rocks.
yeah,
So hold on, the guy that we saw first, who we recognize from all that time back, what'd you call him? The nameless one? What'd you call him?
he called himself the Nameless One.
Okay.
You recollect that he had rejected the Kuromukishi way and left the order to wander, and then picked up the cause of liberating Slave Town.
Okay, I had some memory.
You remember among his number that Bertrand Mulg was there, and it's also where you picked up Tedna.
Oh,
That's
great.
Tedna's origin story. When you were there, Tedna wanted to go with you, and he fell for Hope, and
I had
you guys
some.
lived
I had
happily
some.
ever after. Well,
I had
he
some
didn't.
fleeting memory that the Wanderer died. I thought he died. So obviously not, right? Alive and well. There he is.
He's alive and well.
Okay.
You guys left them to their fate. You parted to go to the Teat, basically, and left them there, and you don't know what became of him or the jeweler, Bertrand Mulg, owner of the Sapphire, a good personal friend of Nash's.
So it's all quiet in this place. Not a lot.
I mean, there's the din of conversation. Elves are speaking. It's like a university auditorium preparing for classroom to start, so there is the din of conversation. There are sideways glances to you to see who the strange newcomers are. You do stand out, of course, in all your glory. But the whole room doesn't go silent, look at you or anything like that.
Okay.
A question. How does it smell in here?
Smells like jungle. That's
Okay.
a terrible description.
Sure.
It smells of greenery, and it doesn't. It's not a negative smell. It smells of nature, and nature smells rich, leaf, dewy leaf smell. I've never been to the jungle. I don't know how the jungle smells.
They smell damp.
I know how
Yeah.
pine forest smells, but not the jungle.
Okay. I'd be wary like I was walking in a retirement home. I just met a kid who is 80 years old. So I think these adults are ancient and frail. I'm very confused by them.
I'd
That's
just be
true.
looking for a seat.
Mostly, it's populated with elves.
Okay. I just look for somewhere to sit. Is there a place where all of us can sit?
the only free seat area where you could all sit together would be next to Riddle Nobieri, who appears to have saved some location.
Okay.
Great, we got sit by that guy.
Hope will sit directly to Nobieri so everyone can take some space away from him
Okay,
if they
so you
want.
can say excuse me and cut through somebody else sitting to get to your area of the
Yeah.
seat.
Stanley sits as far from Nobieri as he can.
Okay.
In a probably notable
so
way.
let me get
he was
my
probably
note down.
right behind Hope, but she kept going down the row, and Stanley stopped immediately at an open seat.
Right, assuming you went second and then made Morel and Nash walk past you.
Yes.
Okay, so just so I have the right order of seating, in case it's relevant, you never know.
Yeah.
It is Riddle, Hope, and between Varel and Nash, who's next?
I'll sit next to Hope. That's fine.
Okay. Then it's Varel, and then it's Stanley.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as you're sort of sorting out where to sit, the four of you hear a voice behind you. Oh, goody! Time to talk!
Do
And
we
you turn around
recognize
and
that
notice
voice?
Bok has followed you in
Oh,
behind you,
Bok.
speaking common, and Bok sits next to Stanley. Stanley,
Oh, right.
it
Stanley
smells.
can't escape.
It smells vaguely of farts now in your area.
Stanley gets up and switches places with Varel.
Yeah, Stanley looks over. Pharrell, do you want to sit next to Bok? Keep him in line.
Bok, where's your charge?
Charge! Charge for where?
The child, Bok.
Oh, little child with Nash lady.
Ah, very good. Then it is a pleasure to see you again. You may sit by me.
Good to see you too, Varel. How have you been?
Oh, he's improved.
Good eats?
He's improved his vernacular.
Talking better.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing good.
Yes, very well. Excellent eats, Bok. How
You
was
notice?
your journey?
Journey, good. Good journey, yes. Journey
Good.
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 You notice? You notice? Common.
Yes, you're doing well.
Practice common. Nash lady.
Right, yes. Nash's wife?
Yes, Nash's wife.
Was there a...
Yeah, good. He's gone too. Remind me that he's married, right? I wasn't sure if it
Yeah,
was
I think
They had
he
the
did.
ring. Remember,
They
he
had a-
like punched
they had a
somebody
wedding?
with the
Okay.
diamond ring or something. They had a ring.
So much has happened even
He
for
punched
me.
an
I'm like,
orb with his ring or something,
Yeah,
and he put
so
the
he-
diamond in the thing
All
so he
right.
He could
could
have a
cast
focus or
spells.
something.
let's not tell Nash we had this conversation, okay?
Yeah.
Right, no, actually, if he's between me and Hope, we just have it like right behind.
Right
Oh, I
over
mean,
him,
us
yeah.
as players, because for the listeners at home, Scott's away from his camera. I don't know if he has his headphones on, so it's like we're talking about, are they married? Like, what's this? Like, this conversation never happened. But anyways, Bok is speaking much better English, quite surprisingly. English.
English.
Very well, Bok. Have they taught you what is known as the 12-inch voice?
Hope looks confused.
He has a blank look on his face. No!
It's a very special technique where you can only be heard at 12 inches away. Do as I do.
What good that?
We're surrounded by old people. They're irritable and confused. They will
Ew.
become alarmed if we talk at full volume.
Yucky old people.
I agree.
Don't trust old people.
No, they live too long. They're wrinkles on. Stanley,
Yes.
how old are you?
Well, it's been a bit tricky keeping track of time as of late, but I am probably 38 or 39, depending on how many years have gone by since we started traveling.
That's excellent.
I'm only
I
a
think-
half elf, so I don't age the way these folk all.
39! Old!
Yes, quite ancient, Bok, indeed. But not as
Old.
ancient as perhaps that man there, or that woman there.
Why here? Talk?
I assume they've focused us all in a central area to face one person talking, and they're gonna be of some renown or skill.
Bok bok talk lots. Bok bok tired talk.
Then perhaps silence is your best option.
He considers your words. Doesn't say anything in response. He's being silent, shockingly enough. He knows what that means. It's quite shocking.
I give him an approving grab on the shoulder and a little shake as we wait for the
Bok
old
really
people.
turned it around.
He really has. Is he wearing clothes and stuff? He still
And then
stinks. but...
he uses his 12-inch voice and he says, "Make blowy later."
Oh, okay, never mind.
just,
He's
to,
back.
just to Varel.
You can take the goblin out of the goblin camp, but you can't take the goblin camp out of the goblin. That's how that works.
He's got a whole camp in him.
Yeah.
So the procession seems not procession, but the meeting seems to be calling to attention. The last few elves come in. A veil of leaves descends from either side to the doorway there, and the dome sort of goes boom over the auditorium. You're not quite clear what the dome is for, but if you had to guess just instinctively, this is maybe a meeting of high importance, and it's so that people can't hear it echo throughout the jungle. The lights dim a little bit, except for some focus. It's like not the lights, but the sunbeams from the tree seem to shift and alter so that it focuses on the center stage, and it darkens a little bit all around the auditorium. It's a very cool effect. And High Elf Amantha Lodar floats up in his chair. The chair has like this watery sort of trail, like as if it floats and surfs on water through the air. And he says, "Greetings, everyone. Thank you for coming in this most auspicious hour as we ponder the fate of the planet Earth. Many of you have traveled far, endured much travail and hardship, and I would be lying if I said it would not only be worse going forward. But we have learned dire news, and we have brought everyone here today to discuss what we can do to prevent the worst from happening. Again, thank you. Since many of you are from different parts of the planet Earth and new to Mars, I thought it only right to provide introductions to everyone in attendance. I am the High Elf Amantha Lodar, spiritual leader of the Elhandari people. This here is Admiral Chrysorius, military commander for the Elhandari forces. It was his forces who might have brought you here. Over here we have a group that calls themselves the Heroes of the Wastes, and they are mightily important to what we're going to discuss here and enact today.
Does anyone else stand?
Well, they've introduced them, like Admiral Chrysorius and High Elf Amantha Lodar are already in the stage, so you're the first called of the list of guests. So it is up to you.
All right, I stand.
All right.
Yeah, I would totally stand. Heck yeah.
Stanley, Hope.
Stanley would see everybody standing and then kind of do a look around unsure and then just sort of stand.
All right, and then Amantha Lodar, seeing you stand, actually prompts you to introduce yourself to the room. It's a subtle gesture rather than him do it.
I like that you stood in the form of a question, John. I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, is Hope stands as well, or is Hope still sitting like a badass?
We're all Hope stands. Just kidding.
hope will stand.
Okay, perfect. All right, so Pharrell, do you take the opportunity to speak, or do you let Amantha Lodar introduce you? Excuse me, sorry.
I will say, I am Varel Rasfim Kirik. My titles are many, but you may know me as the greatest of all the time Varels you may meet.
Okay.
Really getting the word out on that. That's great.
Yeah. Who's next?
Nash would go, Nash Magard of the Solar Mines. It's nice to make everyone's acquaintance, and my little neck arm will kind of wave at everybody.
Okay, very good. Who's next?
Stanley would look at Hope.
All right. Hope would give a little nod and go, I'm Hope. And then look at Stanley.
Okay.
Hi, and my name is Valir Ornoth.
Thank you. Known to the many people as the heroes of the wastes. Then he continues to go through to the next person. He motions to the orc and he says, "This here is," and then the orc gets up. He stands up, since that's what we're all doing now. It wasn't how I pictured it, but I got to change on my He gets up and he goes, "I have no name, but I lead the liberators." And then he sits back down. And then they go. Then he. Then Amantha Lodar continues with this speech, pointing to. Sorry, who's next? The giant Cyclops in the back, and the Cyclops says, "Who?" And then Amantha Lodar says, "This here is Hagomun, he who is blessed with wise finger." And then the Cyclops looks, and then he puts up an index, and then he turns the index around, and there seems to be a face tattooed on the index. And he shows it to everyone, like as if this is a very impressive thing. He doesn't say anything, just shows the finger.
I will whisper to Nash, I hate him.
I don't like him either. I was concerned that was, I couldn't remember. What happened to Orp? Remind me.
Or you killed him.
Oh, we killed Orp. Right. We've been in his testicles.
Him in single combat, I believe.
I crawled up his butthole or something, didn't I? Or penis or something?
Oh, maybe. It was a single combat.
You reached into his flap, right? To get the necklace or something?
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, there was a necklace of fireballs lodged into his urethra that you pulled out.
That's right.
That happened.
The same fireballs that killed our Omnom. Killed Omnom.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
See? It's
urethra ball.
Yeah, so
Urethra ball.
you're having those memories. I'm having memories of being wedged inside of a giant's taint. It's all just it's like a bad memory to see.
You were in there. It peed on you and stuff. All right,
Yeah.
anyways. Then Hayaf Amantha Lodar points or gestures towards the bird folk that are seated, and then says, motions for them to rise, and then one of the bird folk rises, regal, shoulders back, head held high, and he says, "I am King Jalir Criddlescup, leader of the Hegyarfer, ruler of the Dead Fingers." And Bok kind of shakes you, Varel, at your leg, looks down. In that moment, and he says, "What, me?
Hmm?
What, me?" High Alpha Amantha Lodar then says, "The remaining elves here are elves as part of the Elhendari people who've been hard at work on this issue for some time, and only those that need to know are present. Everyone please be seated." Bok lets out a huff. Who's got a perception higher than 18? Passive perception.
Passive perception? I do.
I have an 11. I'm
Oh,
terrible.
wait. Hold on. Yeah, I do. I have a 23.
Okay, perfect. Everyone headphones off except Stanley. Secret knowledge for Stanley.
Oh.
You notice a shadow not break through, but slide through the veil of the twigs and move to sit next to one of the elves. It's a cloaked man, but you catch a brief glimpse of the face of Monsoon Cabbage. All right, back in. All right. Perfect. Okay, so Amantha Lodar finishes giving the introductions and continues. This council, the Council of Earthly Defenders, has been called to once and for all solve the Weir question, to remove the Weir from our world. Each of you here have experienced the Weir threat in one form or another. And you all have witnessed the event of 4 days ago, when the World Breaker began gestating in the planet's crust. Many of you may not know the entirety of the history of Elhandar, those new guests here. Since arriving at Earth before the Scorching, the Elves of Elhandar had a secret mission to investigate the Weir disturbance and to eradicate it from this mundane world. The Scorching presented a considerable setback. We have spent the past 1,000 years working on a solution. But for unfortunate reasons, Elhandar has fallen. And what gains we have made, we no longer have access to. One thing is for certain, though. We thought we had plenty of time. But with the emergence of the World Breaker, that heralds that the end of this planet is coming, and the emergence of the Weir in full to the prime material plane is beginning. It gestates now in the planet, and will be hungry to eat once it is done. Now, not all is lost, for there was one elf who had a plan very different from those of the rest of the Elhandari elves. That elf's name was Dalit Onath. And if that name sounds familiar, yes, it is the father of Valir, seated here today. His plan did not seem likely to come to fruition, although he insisted upon it. We did not see eye to eye, and I would not send more Elhandari elves out to work on his solutions, but I did provide him with permission to continue his work on itself at great cost to Elhandari work. Now that Elhandar is lost, it seems Dalit's legacy is the only option we have remaining, or else submit to defeat. This may sound a little strange to some of you here, but early in Dalit's life, he met a sorcerer by the name of Nash Magard of the Solar Mines. He was known to the elves of Elhandari. And if you think that sounds strange, yes, that is the somewhat same entity that sits here today as a member of the Heroes of the Wastes. The extent of what I know is that sometime in Nash Magard's future, he's presented with an opportunity to traverse adjacencies and return back in time, essentially, and provide Dalit with his life's mission. The Nash Magard before you now has no knowledge of the future and is not the Nash Magard of the past. But it's him who came back and told us that the Triangular Sphere was told Dalit it was the only way that would succeed. Now, we move on to the Triangular Sphere. The Triangular Sphere is a work of impossible geometry, a feat of engineering. Its fabrication is almost complete. But due to an unfortunate series of circumstances, its engineer, its artificer, tungsten wheel has gone missing. It is the current objective of our heroes here to find this tungsten wheel and complete the trianglosphere. That is one entire mission into itself. The reason you're all here today is that we must deposit this trianglosphere in a tactical location so that it penetrates the core of the planet Earth. The magic it is imbued with will reverse the weird corruption in the region. It's looking likely that a target of appropriate location may be well fortified, and we may need to gear for war. This is where Admiral Chrysorius takes over. And then the attention of the light shifts to Admiral Chrysorius, who says, as he begins speaking, Amanthalodar turns his attention to casting illusions above the table so that visually it can be seen what he's explaining. So on the table, an illusion of the planet Earth appears, and that illusion shows like a little line, almost like Death Star style, how it shows a line where the trianglosphere must be dropped in to hit the middle, but then cure the planet, and the illusion of the planet goes from brown to turning green and lush and blue. Yes, that's right. I'm Admiral Chrysorius, and I'll be leading the tactical mission on Earth. The main purpose of this meeting here today is to form a battle plan to escort this trianglosphere to the location where it must be deposited. We've identified 3 primary candidates for this, and then he takes it, sort of whips out a stick and he points to the illusion for everyone. The Firelands, the Black Mine, or the solar mines. Our analysis is that the Firelands may not contain caverns deep enough for us to deposit this. And the Black Mine is rumored to be deep, but its levels are a guarded secret by the Oilbeards. We know nothing about the solar mines. We do know that the area used to be a mine in the ancient times, but the solar mines is operated by the principal, and he has a magical shroud upon the place, not allowing us with our telescopes to see anything of that area. We have no knowledge of what's in there, and it is a very risky proposition without any information. I open it up for discussion to select a suitable target or any new information someone might have. And Admiral Chrysorius' gaze sort of shifts to you, Nash, and drops at you.
I would probably at the time be very wary and a little bit on edge now, knowing that things are creeping closer to my origin, really, to where I'm from. So I wouldn't offer anything to him. I would just sort of look, a little bit freaked out, or a little bit stern, a little bit something, like preoccupied, or however he wants to interpret it.
Okay, doesn't say anything.
I've got a tactical question as a player, but Varel would not understand the implication.
Okay.
So they're talking about dropping the trianglosphere to kill the gestating beast, correct? Not the weir.
No. The trianglosphere is to save the planet. The weir invasion of the planet. Like there's a weakness in the material of reality that causes the weir to be able to visit easily, and it's to close that. The gestating beast we'll have to get to, but
okay, so we need to take the trianglosphere deep enough that it can protect the world from the weir's influence.
That's right. Yeah, it's like a Tylenol for the Earth.
I get a suppository.
Sure.
Yes, exactly.
Got to clear it out.
So, would anywhere that we've accessed the door then would be deep enough to place the trianglosphere, or the deeper the better?
He did mention the core, so it's gotta drop into the core of the planet.
Okay, cool. Because I know we used the key in the basement of Tiakala to get to the Starbucks.
Oh, to the weir place? Yeah, no, that's actually in the weir. It doesn't have to go to the weir. The plant has to go into the core of the planet.
Cool.
And that's the picture depicting it cuts the planet in half and shows the Tylenol, the triangle sphere, going down into the core and then going bloop bloop and healing the planet.
Very cool. Excellent.
Hope will speak up. In the diary that we found, it mentioned the solar mines was the place to take it.
The diary of who?
The elf who went missing.
Your tungsten wheels.
Yes, tungsten wheels.
This is good news, then. The designer of the triangle sphere has selected a location. But, unfortunately, we don't know much about the solar mines. Does anyone else offer an opinion? The council's silent.
I would suddenly get very loud and go, "You don't know what you're doing there. Nothing but danger, death, and destruction await you in the solar mines. This place is bad. The fact that I'm here at all is a miracle." And
The nameless ones. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know how well anyone knew the Nash that came before me or any of these other Nashes you've known. But if they didn't do a sufficient job of explaining it, let me just say this. It is a place of death, blood, tears, and agony. And if we go near that place, we must be sure we're going, and we must be prepared. He would say very seriously, kind of not his normal tone. His normal kind of like, hey, what's going on kind of guy.
Yeah, the nameless one sits forward too and says, Nash speaks true. I have not been to the solar mines, but I have been a ranking member of the Koromu Kishi. And the darkest secrets of the principle are kept there. This is suicide. Must it be done this way? Admiral looks around and says, I'm ready to entertain other options. And the King Jalar gets up and says, we bird folk know nothing of caves and can offer no advice.
Stupid birds.
Just use a character say that. Hargo Moon speaks up and says, I know caves. Wait. My finger says that the solar mines might be a good idea.
It's like saying doing your own heart surgery, open heart surgery is a good idea. It might be your only choice, but it's never a good idea.
Falir, you want to go?
Well, look, I am not one to immediately just jump in agreement with someone's finger, but I do think that this has been leading up to this for some time. Now, Nash, I understand your reservations about going back to the solar mines, I really do, but you are our best chance of getting information about that place. And it certainly seems like we're going to need to go there. I mean, looking at what is needed to create this trianglosphere is not easy, and we haven't even completed it yet. We are only going to get one shot at this, so if there is one place that we know it can go, that is the place we have to go. There aren't other options.
I'm not saying we don't go. I'm just letting everybody know what the risks are, and they are to your very mortal end. Now, perhaps there's hope. I escaped this place. And with help and a whole lot of luck, perhaps we can go back in. And I'm not afraid of it. But I do, not for me. I fear for everyone else. I do know this place. And probably are your best hope and chance. But I just cannot overemphasize how dangerous this journey will be.
Admiral speaks up and says, "We're not asking for no small favor here. This is a war council. This war might be the very death of every person here. We aim to be victorious. But if the planet should die and the Weir invade this world, it will make no matter whether we died fighting for it or died cowering in a corner of this solar system for death to come eventually. Even Mars, even Jupiter, Saturn, all the planets of this realm will perish. There will be no home for any of your loved ones or anyone else. Nash Magod, I say to you, will you fight for your home?"
Yes.
Varela Rasvim Kurik, will you fight for your home?
Of course.
Queen Hope Akamenos, will you fight for your home?
I've already been doing that.
Cheeky. Valeronov, will you fight for your home?
No, but I will fight for my people.
Oh, there's a silent oh moment of people of appreciation on that line. Okay. So Admiral Chrysorius then will any of you will sorry, how should I frame this? Will you answer the call? He says to everyone, and there's a huzzah throughout the room, except for the nameless one who just seems meditative. Admiral Chrysorius then says, "So, it's decided then. To the solar mines, our fate takes us." And he motions to Amanthalodar, and Amanthalodar dispels the illusion of the planet and then brings up a magical parchment that's viewable from the front from any angle that you can see it at, which is a very neat little piece of technology. Or magic, I should say. And so this is why the camera issue being a thing was kind of bad. I was going to use this. So if you look at my camera, it'll be like this. So Admiral Chrysorius turns to you, Nash, and says, "This is what we know of the solar mines. It's surrounded on all sides by a mountain range, and to the northeast is a single column entrance between the mountains. El Handari has 15 remaining drop ships in its fleet. There may be an assortment of vehicles available from the Liberators, as I understand." And Nameless One says, "Yes, that's right. What we ask you, Nash, is what information you can provide us about what's here. The concern is if we bring dropships into this area that we would fly right into a trap and be shot out of the sky immediately. We need a plan of attack, and we need to know what's in there."
I'll tell you now, the two-columned entrance is correct, and it is fortified with, well, at the time it was hundreds. Who knows what it is now? But hundreds of slow Peters armed to the teeth.
The bird folk. What is this slow Peter you speak of?
They are best described as taskmasters, enforcers, constructs that are not human or any other race for that matter. These are created of machine and magic.
And how does one defeat a non-human construct called a slow Peter?
Well, one problem is they seem to be slow and lumbering, but this is just to fool people. Attacking one means great peril. As far as how anyone kills them, I don't know. I was only able to escape them through various...
Argo Moon considers his finger and looks and he says, "What if they're fire? 'Cause solar fire. What about ice spears?" He looks at you seriously with the question.
They are not run strictly... They're not powered by fire or heat. They're powered by dark magic, and they're mostly machine. So whatever attack we mount, we'll need to keep in mind the machine nature of these beasts. They're not elemental. And a slow Peter has one feeling and one thought, if it can even be called that, and that is to destroy you the minute it sees you.
Okay, a minute. I'm just making notes here. Right, well, that's terrifying. If you have any tactical information about how to defeat them, that would be great. If not, we'll have to make do on the ground. What I'm interested in knowing, Nash Magod, is what buildings are there? Is there a proper mine? Is it a cave?
So
is it a castle? What
on the surface
structures are within?
On the surface, you might even call it, I don't know if beautiful is the word, but there is a pristine quality to the outside looking in. You'd have to be within the mountainous complex to see this for what I'm saying, but it's a beautiful set of structures. And in the higher structures, this is where they keep the children. And the children are raised with culture and understanding and education. And they are taught the ways of the old people and the ways of the old civilizations. And they are taught of cultures not theirs. And they are raised to ultimately become reproductive with each other.
Okay,
but if they fail to do so, which is part of the problem there, they are discarded immediately and sent to the lower levels and are sent deep within the mines, where they are there to harvest all make of radiated material. For what ultimate use, I still don't know. But do you see these? And I pull sleeves up on my robes and pull my hood back and just kind of, bare all my sores to everybody.
You have the audience's attention.
I would say these are from that. I was deemed incapable for whatever plans they had for me and for those with me, and me and others were tossed to the side, made slaves, fed poorly, sick all the time. We were meant for one thing, and that is to mine as much as we could from those places until we were dead. And there would always be more to fill that space, because more sterile children would be discovered and would be sent down there on their 11th or 12th birthday. And then the place would be filled with these slaves. Up top, those who were able to reproduce, to father and mother children, were taken to I don't know where to do just that. But one believes, or the stories below were that they were given opulent lifestyles and all the food and water and care that they would ever need. So these scars you see on me now, these were obtained in the mines and not before. And it was that day that I was torn away from any access to any of those great books or libraries, or what we called the information was taken from our hands, and we were sent down, to toil until we died. Slow, painful, bleeding sores, deaths. happened in that mine. And the Slow Peters, their job was to keep us there, to keep us on task, to get us into shape, and to remove bodies when deaths happened. That's all I can tell you. How I got out of there, I can tell you, and I can tell you how terrible that place is, but I don't know much more than a very brief childhood of what felt like heaven, and then a very long young adulthood that felt like hell.
High Elf Emerald Chrysaorus is about to interject, and High Elf Amanthlodar motions to him, and he does not. And then he says, "You tell a chilling tale of what sounds to be a horrid place. But in order to accomplish the task at hand, Nash, do you remember any of the structures there for a good landing zone where we might safely reach, where military is less likely to patrol, the opposition is less likely to patrol? Do you know how we would access the mines?"
Well, I can only tell you this. They have land-to-air defenses, so any air attack will be repelled. There is nowhere above the mountains or the structures themselves that you won't be detected. So if this is part of your plan, you may as well throw that to the side now.
And
go ahead.
And then another elf speaks up and says, "Are you suggesting that we forego an aerial assault and attack via the passage on ground?"
It may be your only way in. My way out was that self-same passage. It's a long story, but I'll give you the brief version of it. I ended up stowing away, in a sense, inside the vast belly of a Slow Peter.
Oh, this is new.
With the help of fellow slaves who perished in this effort, we were able to smuggle 2 of us out, and we did it within the Slow Peters, which are, again, large constructs, machines, and when gutted properly and so on, we were able to get inside of one. The problem is they I don't know how you'd get an army in there in this way. Only 2 of us escaped, and when we did, we weren't done. When the Slow Peter we were inhabiting was found who we were and what we were doing, we almost died.
Well, this is what we mean to determine in today's council, everyone. The triangulosphere must be brought to a location where it can be deposited.
I
This
can
is
give
a
you
heavily
I can,
fortified location.
Nash will stand up, wave his arms, and say, "I may have one idea I hadn't considered up to this point. When I left that place, I did it under the strength of my own sweat. Today, I would perhaps use more of the magic that I have acquired since. It doesn't seem too impossible that we couldn't gather many sorcerers at some point in the rear of the place, and by rear he means maybe the opposite of where the entrance is, where they don't think anyone's ever going to come in, and just move.
I'll draw it on the map if you like.
Yeah. So down corner,
right here?
bottom corner. Yeah.
You saying there's a way through?
I'm
So you
saying
can continue,
maybe
sorry, yeah.
maybe enough sorcerers put their powers together and we mold Earth our way into that place. We move Earth from where it is, basically tunnel in, and do it low and deep enough where we actually come up through the mines, where you'll have less resistance. There'll be more. It'll be mostly slaves there if they're still there, mining the material, and then you'll have some Slow Peters, but not a heavy amount. They're just there to keep the weak. So they don't concentrate their forces in the lower reaches of the mines. They do that on top to keep people out. So if we could tunnel there without detection, maybe other magic could be employed to reduce our chances of detection. We could tunnel in and take them by surprise and take them from the rear. Once you're in, though, no guarantees. They could flood the corridors, flood the caves and the elevator systems, and with more forces, and then make it really hard. But it may be our best way.
All right. Admiral Chrysoria says, it's an intriguing idea if we have the means to mold Earth, as you say, to form a passage under the mountains. Is this too all in? We send the whole army in this way and defeat them from within? Now, keep in mind that this could be a good plan, but if we want to have our Mad Max driving in on vehicles moment, if I didn't really spell it out, so I'm just going to make sure it's sort of clear. You are here to choose your fantasy in terms of this waging this war. So think about, we're relying on Nash because he has knowledge of what the buildings are there. So tactically, if there's a good building, if there's good mine, like whatever you can think of to tell them about the place that you're from would help. This is a good tactic, but also if you want to have we all get in vehicles and do Mad Max thing, I will say that, vehicular assault might be the way to go.
So here's what I would say I would continue on with the group and explain that would only be perhaps part of the strategy and a distraction mostly. So once they got word that there was this tunneling and that that enemies were at the rear, the assumption would be or should be that this is a effort to release everyone. The reason that they guard that place so much is they don't want to lose the human resource of these slaves.
No.
And so if they do lose them, they want to lose them slowly over time on the burden of their own backs. So they don't, this isn't something they want somebody to just sneak in and do. So if they believe that that's happening in the back, the thinking is they would round up all the slow Peters that get rounded up and sent that direction. Heavily, they'd probably leave some forces, but heavily weaken the frontal assault that could happen at the gate, and leave things open for
I see
less
what you're
resistance.
saying. So it would be So what you're explaining is like a crack team.
Yeah, like a two-pronged
would
approach.
enter and sow destruction as a distraction.
Yeah. So you got your special teams down there, and then your big heavy forces up top.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you know of, and don't feel pressured to roleplay necessarily, but this is your opportunity. We mentioned a bit last week to just populate if there's anything of interest within this area. Is John's Walmart that he's rumored about there? You should mention it. What are the tactical buildings? I don't need all of it, just broadly if there's any cool structures, if there's solar panels everywhere. I imagine there's solar panels in places.
There are. In fact,
I wanted to do
everywhere.
it this way because I can sketch things out based on your description and then populate
Sure.
for our
So
adventure.
all the buildings have solar panels all over them. The goal of that is whatever the material it is that we were mining in the farthest under reaches of the thing needed sun to matter. So we're piping sun energy into the place, into the rock, into the material, so that it is being mined at the moment of its best condition, and it requires sun to do that. If there were times or not sun, but solar energy, if there was times of blackout for a really long time, like a sandstorm or something that would black things out forever, or like a month or something, then it would kind of shut stuff down. And they would have to rely on reserves for, food, water, that sort of stuff. So that's true. Those buildings that are above ground, like I said, they're in relatively pristine condition. They're not ornate, but they're big cement, square and rectangular and kind of clean, like government building type stuff. And in those buildings are these big libraries and these teaching facilities where if they find fertile students, and they don't know until puberty if they are, their goal is to raise up a race of a version of humanity that is smarter and more equipped than anybody else on the planet, in the realm, in the galaxy, everywhere. And their goal is, if they do this long enough, very strategically, and they're thinking on, they think in decades, not on weeks or months, that eventually they'll have such a vastly superior intellectual and prepared group of people with vast riches they've been mining for all of that time, that gives them all sorts of power and capabilities, magically and otherwise, that they would be able to sort of at some point break out of this and take over everything is the goal. So every kid that can't, and the reason so many can't have children is of the irradiation of the world itself. Like, this is just kind of a problem in general. And in my mind, you know, the humans are in particular, we're struggling with this a little bit.
Okay.
And so
right.
This is a group that thinks they have that solved. But as soon as they see that part, you know, that there's no reproductive use for you, you are down in the basements. Now, in the basements, there's not basements, down in the catacombs.
I have a basement view here.
Oh, very nice. So down there, there's like a sub-level where there's like equipment and machinery and stuff just for work or whatever. But then these huge elevators take you lower, and there's a big level of nothing but just really crappy living quarters. And by that, I just mean like carved out spaces with cots and shitty beds and, you know, just a bad place to be and exist. And they keep hundreds where there should be tens of people. Many of them die there just of dysentery and, you know, all the things.
You mentioned
that
flooding, so I guess if there's ever a riot with the under people,
yeah, they can just flood them out.
They just flood them with lava.
Yeah, correct. They can totally do that because the way that this stuff down there is kerjiggered is the sun's rays power the panels. Some of that's just used for power, but most of it is funneled down through complex, you know, widgets that basically activate the rock in a way that creates this material that's very valuable, thus making it, you know, the solar mines. And a lot of people think, oh, they're just mining solar power. And that is on the outside what it looks like, but deep down in there, this is where all the secrets are. So you got your living quarters, then you keep going down, and then you've got where they're just working and carving out. There have been cave-ins and mass killings, and then go back in there, clear it out, you know, find a bunch of bones and bodies, keep going until another cave-in, and they don't care. If you die, you die. It's not a big deal.
Okay. All right. So, in the effort of separating the lore from the tactical information, what I'm getting here is that there's solar panels, government buildings, and slow peters that would be defending on the surface for the most part. And there's these high rises with structures where there are people who are, the children are taught to be awesome or then sent to the underbelly.
Yeah.
Then we have the underbelly and associated things.
And there's a leader in the center of all of this who would be in one of these high-rise buildings, lives a very opulent life, is untouchable. There's no democracy here. He just is in charge for as long as he lives. And he's somewhere in the center. Nash does not know his name. In fact, they called him the Emperor with no name.
Oh, Emperor with no name.
Yeah.
All right.
Made him all the more mysterious. And when you would see him, you'd see him and hear his voice occasionally. His voice would come over loudspeakers in the mines and say things like, "To work is to flourish is to live," you know, this sort of stuff. Just bullshit, propaganda. And it would be in his voice. And if he ever was anywhere publicly where anybody could see him outside of whatever his inner circle is, he was always hooded or masked, or, you know, you didn't know what he looked like.
All right. So you take time to explain this all to Admiral Chrysorius, and a good hour now passes in the meeting as you describe everything you remember. You finally let it out that through all this time, you've been very, you know, through all this time we've been playing, you've not spoke about it in any great detail, and all of a sudden it's just an avalanche of emotion as you just like angry. As you just tell them what they want, know, and beyond, because they're looking for tactical approach, but you give the entire, you know, makeup of the place. And then, you know, the room is silent after you're done. I don't know if you want to cap off with any sort of flourish.
Nash would sit there quietly for a minute, consider it, and then say, "The truth is this, I never thought I would go back to that place. And if I did, I might never return from it again. So take this information and do with it what you will."
Thank you for sharing that information with us, Nash. Now, the other aspect we do know is that because of the destruction of Principal City, that this is likely to be the new home base of the Principal. And then the illusion appears, changes from the map to a picture of the Principal, chrome man, large muscle, blue ley lines covering his body, and 10 rings. The Principal also has forces that number in the thousands. And then he changes the illusion to show the appearances of the following: the Toyota Host, the Koromu Kishi, nameless one spits, the Umbilical Order of Paladins, and you see, remember Renko you fought a long time ago who had the big power armor as a picture of a man in power armor, and the Dragon Sons, and you've encountered these as well, sorcerers, not unlike Nash in some way. We expect these forces to also be present, in addition to the Slow Peters and the Emperor with no name, and whatever other dangers we might find that we don't know of. But this is good information, Nash. We know that it's likely government buildings. It doesn't sound like you've noticed that there's any artillery apart from what the Slow Peters might offer.
All I had was rumor that we dominated the skies above the facilities, and and then some. When as children we would read some of this, and it wasn't all history. Sometimes we would read about our capabilities, and it seems to me there was something there. But again, I was 8 or 9.
Well, we have to figure out what we're going to be doing with our forces. We have forces of our own. Vorel, you have brought your people with you. Will they fight?
They will fight if properly motivated.
And how many are in their number? Or what do they number?
How many were there? There was like 60 of them or 30 or something.
I can't remember what I said, but definitely in the 50 to 100 range. So we'll just say around, I know, maybe it was 70. Let's say
75 sounds about right.
Yeah, I'm writing it down now, though. There are 300 elves here. He says, he looks to Hargomun. Of your giant folk who will fight with us, how many are their number? And Hargomun looks at his finger and he says, 5. King Jela Kriddlescup, of your people, how many are fighters? And he says, we can commit no more than 64 to the cause. Queen Orifi. Or no, sorry, he doesn't refer to you as that because you just called yourself Hope. He says, Hope, your tiefling numbers, who can fight?
Most are dead. There's no one I know.
Well, some tieflings came back on the dropship early before. There's no fighters that you can commit to the cause.
She'll shake her head no. She wouldn't offer up. After everything they've been through, she couldn't possibly ask them to.
Nobieri leans over and says, at least I will volunteer.
If it's your choice, you do it. But I won't. Not after everything we've been through.
The orc, the nameless one, looks and says, why won't the tieflings offer help in this tower of need? Do they get special exemption for participation in this? He's looking to you, Hope.
Hope won't even look back at him. She doesn't care who he is.
Okay. And Valir or Noth. Oh, never mind. He doesn't say that. Already, someone spoke for the elves. I got mixed up on something. Sorry. Then he looks to who's left? Sorry, I missed somebody. We got the bird folk, the elves, the giants, the lizard folk, the tieflings, I'm missing one. Who am I missing, guys?
I think you got them all.
You may have got
The
them all.
people I wrote in attendance is Nameless One,
Yeah.
Hargo Moon, King Jalier,
Gilier.
Nobieri, Amanthalodar,
okay, that's
and
all of
Admiral
them.
Chrysaorius.
So the size of our army is about 450. We have 15 drop ships. Oh, sorry, there was one. It's the Nameless One. He looks to the Nameless One. He says, Nameless One, how many number your liberators? And he says, we number about 49, I want to say. Just say 50. So there are 50 liberators. Right. So that's about 500 is the size of our army. We have 15 drop ships. We have how many vehicles? You said 20? Yes, 20. I'm writing that down now. I might have said something different earlier, but
I
do
think
we
you
need
said
any more
15,
than
but
that?
that's okay. 20's
I
good.
said 15?
I think so. I'm not sure. Or maybe that was drop ships.
Yeah, it's 15 drop ships.
Yeah, never mind.
Now we have to decide where we're going to place, like, what the tactics are for the war that we're going to engage upon. I turn to the heroes of the waste, for it is the heroes of the waste who will be escorting the trianglosphere to its destination. Oh, I'm saying the wrong voice. For it will be the heroes of the waste, presumably, you'll be the ones to carry the trianglosphere where it needs to go. Yes?
Why do we exclude the people of the planet in this plan?
They are all the people of the planet.
The humans, the Trashburg citizens, the Jeweler's forces. Surely they would want to defend their own world from insemination.
The liberators are the only ones that answered the call. The remaining humans fight for the Toyota host. Or are
What did
dead.
you... What call? Did you arrive and said, I'm from Mars?
We did arrive by dropship, yes, and explain this.
Perhaps you should arrive by vehicle with dust at your back and impress them. If you're looking for ragtag forces to scream and holler, there are a few better at such chaos than my friend Bok here.
Bok looks up, and Bok stands up immediately. He sees your point, and he looks at this as a new suggestion. He says, I don't know who this is. Bok. Nice to meet you. It seems would be good time for him to introduce himself.
This will go well.
I thought
I'm sure no problem. With
I'm Bok. I'm from Boogie Arf. And Bok been thinking. Bok, elf, bring Bok back to Boogie Earth. Bok go to Gobbies. Bok go to King Gobby. Bok challenge King Gobby. Bok become king of Gobbies. Bok save Earth. As normal. Always saving heroes. We'll get Gobby army. Give me fly thing.
and blowy.
Yes, we make blowy on library.
You see?
Bok soup. Oh, yeah.
Well said, Bok. Very well said. The people will defend their own planet if, much as my folk, are properly motivated and addressed with kindness and respect, rather than from above and threatened with emotional grenades. This operation concerns every single creature and being upon that planet, and they should be given a chance for their own glory.
Admiral Chrysaorius bows before you. Says, I agree. I knew not of Bok Bok or his ascendancy to kingship. Tell me, Bok Bok, how many gobbies are available? Bok Bok counts on his finger. He says, 1,000,000! Million? Million. He looks at you sort of puzzling, Varel. Like,
What?
can you back him up on that? Like, he's not sure if he's saying the right word.
And I'll do 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. On my fingers, 0, 0. It's, wait. 6 zeros, Bok Bok?
Maybe. Many gobbies.
Maybe 3 zeros, Bok Bok?
4, maybe 4.
4.
40 million.
That's 10,000, Bok Bok.
Oh. 10,000 Bok Bok, he says to everyone. Elf, give me bird car. Me go to Boogie Earth. And then come back and make blowy on everything. The big Boogie Earth. And then he farts.
Naturally.
Of course.
Sounds like farts around you. So Bok Bok has essentially just offered 10,000 goblins should he become king. It sounds like the kind of thing that he might get up to while you go to Pentelweiss and deal with that. He says, okay, me go now. Get me birdie. And he begins leaving. And he walks out. Everyone lets him walk out. Admiral Chrysorius then turns to you, Varel, and says, as to the heroes, he turns to everyone. Should anyone know of any other civilizations wishing to assist in this, we will send ships to that civilization. While the heroes of the Waste go and find Tungsten Wheel for the Trianglosphere. Please let me know.
Do not arrive in ships for these people. You must approach them as citizens of Earth. Find the one Jimster. Allow him to outfit you with a wheeled vehicle that you may approach them in. Tell them of the solar mine.
Okay, make a persuasion roll.
You know I'm good. Oh, snap, a 19.
Ooh.
Admiral Chrysorius heeds your advice. They're going. You can tell he's absolutely going to get a vehicle from Jimster and approach any other civilizations as Earthlings and not as spacemen. He for sure he's listening to you 100%.
Nice.
Stanley would finally kind of speak up and say, most of the people that I've come across on my journey are already committed or in this room, but I do think that there is another who certainly has knowledge of the world and has certainly been around long enough to have made connections that perhaps we are missing. I think it's important that this individual does their part to ensure the future of the planet, and considering that they are part of the reason why we have committed to this cause, I think Monsoon Cabbage should use the resources at his disposal to see if he can find assistance for us. And Stanley will turn and look into the crowd where he saw Monsoon Cabbage slip in.
So to inform those of low perception, you did not see Monsoon Cabbage. You now see that he is sitting among them, hooded, away from the shafts of sunlight. He looks to Stanley, and then he stands up and says, I am here to offer my aid. It is not much, but I too will fight in this war. You can add a vampire to the list in your military. A vampire knight, he says. And I'm writing it down. And then he sits back down, says nothing further. Okay, so now we're at a point where, for me, the DM, to you as players, this is where it's choose your own adventure. You're going to be going after the Trianglosphere in the near future, but upon your return, we are going to war. So you, as the heroes of the Waste, as the smartest people and most adventurous in the room, get to decide what the tactics are for this military. You have 50 liberators, 75 lizard folk, 300 elves, 5 giants, 64 bird folk, 1 tiefling, and a vampire knight, as well as yourselves, and maybe Bok Bok and his 10,000 goblins. He's got to go
think we
defeat the
can do-
king.
I think we can do one better.
Mm-hmm.
Because, look, if we're going to war, we already know someone who not only is quite skilled at it, but thrives on it and has sought it out many, many times. Someone who I am supposed to escort to the Feywild when this is all done. Thus, our mission hinges on its success. And I think that if we are going to war, the Archfey of Carnage most certainly should be present.
Ooh, that has a bad reaction to. Roll a persuasion roll. Oh, hang on. That's too early. That has a bad reaction to the elves. We'll wait for the persuasion roll because that's. You're gonna need to persuade them to do this.
Can he tell?
Diane Talis has a bad history of being unleashed in wars and then going way too far and ruining everything. So it's a tough suggestion. There's silence, and Amantha Lodar says, "Now we must counsel caution, Valir, with a weapon of such destructive force."
We are dealing with the end of the entire world. This is a game where you put all your pieces on the table. You do not hold back for another stage. This is it. If we don't succeed, the Earth will be destroyed. The end of it. And while some of you may feel safe sitting on your terraformed platform here on Mars with just the little remnants of your society, it's not going to be enough. Now, if anybody here has a reason to hate Diane Talis, it is me. He has taken up residency in my body and forced me to do things that I would never have wanted to do. And even I am willing to put that aside to say that at this time we need allies. He has given me his word, and I believe him. He's a creature of Fey. He does not typically lie, at least so overtly. I think he could be a great use to us. I understand the history. I understand the concern, and I would be lying if I didn't say I at least somewhat shared it, but this is all or nothing. Why on earth would we just set him aside and have him watch? Honestly, I'm more afraid of what he might get into sitting on the sidelines watching everybody else go off to war.
That is a fantastic point, but for the sake of dramatics, Admiral Chrysorius reacts and says, "Do you not know that he was present at the last apocalypse this planet experienced?" And then Amantha Lodar holds his arm. And now you may roll your persuasion roll to see to convince the elven people that they're going to go along with this
Holy crap, dude.
insane
I
idea.
think he's done it.
I think he might have done it.
I didn't see the roll.
It's a 34. It's a 19 plus 15.
Amantha Lodar holds Chrysorius' arm and says, "Stanley is not wrong. We need every weapon at our disposal. The World Breaker is nigh." And that's the last piece of information that we have to discuss at this War Council. I think we should retreat for recess while we come up with a specific battle plan for the war. But before we do, we must also incorporate this objective of destroying the World Breaker. For even if we deposit this Trianglosphere where it needs to be, the World Breaker will also need to be vanquished. Now, we know little of what it is, but we did identify what it might be. And then in the illusion, it brings up a picture of what it might be. And you see an impossible shape of a creature that you don't know what it is, reduced many sizes smaller. You know how large this thing is. And then Manthlodar says, "This, what you're looking at, is a Tarask." And with that, we'll go to recess. And you can think about what the war plans are going. The whole point of this war council is to decide what the war will look like when you return from Pental Vice. Kick back, think about it a little bit, and we'll discuss it further upon your return.
Nice. It's fun to watch Kyle's face when you said Tarask. Excellent. We will be back in about 10, everybody. Go take a break. Go pee. Do whatever you got to do. We'll be back for more. There will be dungeons. We'll see you then. Let me kick the new recording off here. All right, we're back for part 2 of today's adventure. Bo, back to you.
The room gets quiet at the sight of the large Tarask as part of the illusion, and the illusion vanishes. And Manthlodar looks to everyone and says, "We have Elhendari people focused on learning all we can about how to defeat it. The reason we've had this meeting today, this war council, is to begin our battle preparations while the heroes of the Waste find Tungsten Wheel and Globswarp that is needed for the construction of the Trianglosphere. Upon their return, we wish to be ready." And so he turns to the heroes of the Waste and he says, "It would be good to consider any tasks that we must do now so that we can have it ready in time for your return." I open the floor to strategy at this point. And just so you guys have it, I'll type out the list, but you're open to make the suggestions. I'll open the list of resources that I have for the military forces. The sort of goal would just be to preliminarily decide what to do with them. I think the battle chat upon your return, there could be another war council potentially, so this could change. But I will send you the list of the military and what we have, and you can start. You're open to discuss. The strategy session is open.
Is this thing something you're sticking in Slack?
Yeah, I'll put it in Stack. I just got to actually type it out. I wrote it by hand, so it'll just be a second.
Is the Tarask image still up on the elf projector?
No, he removed it, but you could request him to put it back, I guess.
Put that incredible beast back up.
The image of the Trask is returned.
And I'll walk between the people, stepping on the bleachers of the seating, as it were, to make my way out onto the floor and like really walk around that image and soak it in.
Yeah, I will send you the generic art for it. The main difference would be that due to this being, a weird demon, it is black and purple and is much more fanged and jagged than the picture I'm sending. But yeah.
Well, whatever hubbub may continue around it, Varel will be commenting on how this should have been the focus of this meeting. What an incredible beast. What an absolute beauty, the majesty of this creature.
Okay. So I'll just need a second, sorry.
So from what I know in D&D, this is like the big bad of all time, right? Tarask is as bad as it gets.
It's a creature of legend, yes, of great difficulty.
Right.
And then in 3.5, you can't kill it. You can only wish it away with a wish spell.
Really?
Yeah, it looks like 5 got rid of it, but 3.5, yeah.
So back then you had to wish it. How would that even work?
You need to be high enough level to even have access to the wish spell, and then hope it goes off correctly.
Yeah, permission to historically table talk.
Yeah,
from the
go for
DM.
it. Hey,
Okay.
we're hanging out playing D&D. So you can do whatever you want, man.
It was basically, it's Godzilla. And much like Godzilla, you couldn't defeat it, merely wounded enough so it went away and took a nap.
It goes back to the ocean very slowly.
Right. And no matter how many
Yeah.
times you nuked it, it would, somehow come back for the next movie.
All right. Wow. I knew it was big and bad. I didn't know it was that big and bad.
But
Yeah,
this is
so-
a Weir Rask, so the table knowledge.
Yeah. To give you some context, the difficulty, the combat rating, which is what 5e uses for the difficulty. So if something has a CR of 10, that means 4 10th level players fighting one of them is a challenge. This creature has a CR of 30, and the max level of D&D is 20. For some context.
Wow.
In other words, don't try
We're going to need a lot of gobbies.
it. Yeah. Drop gobbies on them.
Yep. Just a big blanket the place with gobbies.
Load them up in a plane with some dynamite and just drop them.
That's some
Okay,
40K shit right there.
There may be more to learn. The curing of the planet being the priority objective, and then getting rid of that thing. I mean, unless you decide to do it in a different order, is sort of the implied one order of things. Now, looking again at the map here, what I would like for you guys to do is decide where the forces would be. So we have 3 points of attack. We have let me get a different color here. We have 3 points of attack that have been discussed. I don't know if I have. I'll just use a paintbrush, whatever. We have the passage in right there. We have air assault, and we seemingly have a mold earth passage as a plan. So it might just be enough to decide those forces that I sent, who would be part of what, or you guys are deciding what the attack will look like with this military that I've just shown.
Well, the elves are trained in air dropship, so I think it would be silly to ask them to do something outside of what they're trained in. And the lizard folk know ground combat.
Now, would the lizard folk go under the earth more naturally, or would they use vehicles as part of the attack?
I think the goblins would do the vehicles. Those nasty things.
There's
Well,
no way
and
we're going to get the giants in the tunnels, and I don't think they're going to do well on airships, so I think giants are pretty much dedicated to the pass.
Okay, so giants. So I'm going to write this down.
Kyle,
Giants, 5 giants.
can your lizards do like Fremen stuff, like quick burrows and then surprise attacks and all that crap?
I was
mean,
looking
that's a
that
good
up.
point. They could
Yeah.
stealth in.
Well, that's the stealth is special to me as a so we have hunter's lore, which gives you advantage or proficiency in stealth. So likely a lot of them are stealthy, but I also have advantage because of my frog behemoth mutation business. So they're not all as stealthy as I am, though most of them will have high survivability. So we could put them through a mountain pass and have them sneak in the back.
Also, keep in mind, when I left that place, Slow Peters didn't have ground to air themselves. The rumors were that there was ground to air defense of some kind, but the security detail and the sort of the masses of those guys are not meant for that. So there could be an opportunity to get them somehow rounded up in a place where air power from both elves and maybe even me and other dragons, if we can get them, could do a whole lot of good work there. We just don't. I just don't know what the defenses
That's a
are.
good question too. I mean, they always say don't divide the party, but there is a thought to be had as far as dividing the party to where different people go with different things. Nash being able to be a dragon would be a great asset to the air forces. I have a ship that I believe I saw cannons on that could join the Air Forces. Nash knows Mold Earth, so he could certainly go with that group. Varel would certainly work well in that group. Hope drives really well, so she would do well in that group. So I think there's actually even a scenario where we go different directions, but also the trianglosphere is very big. So I think that pretty much guarantees that it's going to have to come in through the mountain pass. Because if the idea is to draw them away, that's going to be the least defended. We don't want it to get damaged. So I would think that it would have to make that journey, or maybe a drop ship, but being big, I don't think it can go in through the tunnel. So, not knowing what the air defenses are, I would think it would go through the pass.
Who would be in charge of? Could I have the Bo? Could I have the world map up in Roll20?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Let me just get. Oh wait. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. We can put that here. I don't think there's spoilers in here, so.
Big issue is coordination. So we just need to go to an alternate reality and get Ko, and then we can set up the psychic network, and then we can all pull this up really well.
So the solar mines is there.
Could you move it to the player level so I could look around?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to. I meant to do that. Sorry, I always forget to do that. There you go.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you.
All
All right. So, who was the faction? So I know the Worm Priests were part of this, but Kervalon, who was the faction that chased us in and embedded us deeper in there?
The faction there. Well, there was the lizard folk that had the worms.
Yeah, they were defending it, but after we arrived, a group came in the back.
Oh, that's right. Who did come in the back? It was a bunch of, was it bugbears?
Oh, right. Yes. Weren't they bugbears?
You know what? I'm drawing a complete. It's been so long. I have a complete
I
blank.
think
on
it was
that.
bugbears. We were using the portal gun to kill them, but they were like way outnumbering us. There were
I
just
remember
tons
that
of
because
them.
I drew on that day. That's the only reason I remember it. I drew a bugbear.
I need to go back and listen.
Yeah.
drawn a complete blank.
But
on
I
that
think
word.
they were under like Dolopopio control as well. I think.
Okay.
I think.
Because we could seriously upgrade our lizard platoon by going back to Kervalon and getting all the super lizard suits and laser swords. There was tons of them and all the potions as well.
Yeah. True. Somewhere we have a person named Siri or Sira, depending on the day, with an airship.
Who was that?
The
That was
little
the-
elf girl.
That was the elf girl
Oh, right.
back when we met like the X-Men.
That's right.
Yeah. I forget. I think it was just a little
sometimes we
girl.
called her, yeah, sometimes we called her Siri, sometimes we called her Sira. Sort of just depended on the map.
I think
and
it
the
was
day.
Sarah. Her name. Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
she
they're-
partnered with Carter's character, right? Yeah.
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 Yep. That's right.
And then there's space Space Ben.
Space Ben. We got a Space Ben.
We can call on
If you go
him.
to space, maybe you'll find chance. Who knows?
That's some serious air support. Like way out there.
This little halfling just tumbles down.
Well, that would be, if Nash was to go on some sort of dragon adventure and find any dragons or something like that, there is a world where we could split up. I would take the lizard folk to Kervalon and get them outfitted and improved.
Yeah, because you could turn them all into, like, they'd have those dragon killers and all of that, like that armor and stuff.
Yeah.
Depending on how much is left. We don't know what the laser did to all of it.
Right. The whole place may be a big hole.
But we got a ship. We can get there quick.
Yeah. Because we're going to get the people and cars from Tiakala, and then the Liberator. So the Liberator camp is would be the Jewelers faction, right?
Yeah, it's the jewel.
Okay.
It's like a hodgepodge of mostly humans, but various races grouped together against the principal and Slave Town.
Cool. So
but they've been in the past. There's a 3-month period, where we let 3 months go by, and they've still been operating. Who knows what other vigilante antics they've gotten up to in the
Excellent.
realm.
But this is all, of course, based on getting more people visiting all these sort of.
Well, so the idea would be you're going on your adventure to get tungsten wheel, but
Yeah.
there's 15. You can send elves out to go and do these things while you're away. So, for example, getting armaments from Caravelon might be a task. I can write that down as a task that they'll take care of. One task that's definitely happening is Bok will attempt to be king.
He shall be king.
Yeah, I'd tell him to keep an eye out for a. What was she? Was she a gnome named Eddie?
Yeah.
And then a human girl named Sierra. Or was she an elf girl? Yeah, she's an elf girl because they cut her ears
She was
off.
an elf girl.
Yeah.
Eddie and Sierra.
They might have a airship of sorts and be in the area of Caravelon. That's where we last saw them, at least.
Eddie and Sarah, mutant airships fine. That's what I'll write.
Send people to Tiet Kala. Get the word out in case anybody is still alive there, and if anybody wants to fight, but also the cars.
Survivors, bring vehicles. Okay, well, we can do that for sure.
Yep, and then Caravelon for the lizards.
Okay. Oops. Oh. Sorry. Caravelon outfit lizards. Anti-dragon armaments. Okay. I wish I didn't pick this color. Okay.
It's very bright.
As for the other place my mind goes, it's mostly to the airship, so we're properly outfitted for our journey. But I do like John's idea. If we can find a way to coordinate, it might be a really good idea to put the various faction leaders, which would be us, in charge of the various platoons that we're invading with, and then have a meetup plan. Unless... Are we going to sneak in? I guess that's our big player decision, is are we, as a party, sneaking in?
I like the idea of sneaking in because I play a rogue and all things, but we do have to get in with the triangulosphere, which is, I think Bo said it was like the size of a small room.
Could we put it in...
No, maybe, let's say 10 feet in diameter. Big sphere thing.
What if we put it in a book? Since Nobieri knows something of that magic.
He was trapped in a book.
Yeah, could we use that knowledge to put something of that size?
Can we put this in a book?
Yeah.
That's just testing my memory now. And I think he was trapped there by someone else. It wasn't the book. Him being in the book, I don't think was his doing.
Right, he was cursed, banished to the book in some fashion.
Likely by the vampires that took over. He knew the secrets and was banished to the book. So it wasn't his spell. Not an option, I don't think.
I mean, we could also have some people go and check out Principal City, whatever's left of it. Maybe there's a decent chance that there's some people there that aren't too pleased with the principal blowing up his own place.
Now, there's got to be discontented something out there that we could rile up. Once we get in, we're going to go full probably Temple of Doom with everyone in there. And all those kids are going to help with the revolt. Where they all start chucking rocks at everybody and, kind of finally they can fight for themselves. But on the outside, there's got to be we just overwhelm them in numbers,
Can we send a reconnaissance team to get a bit more information on what we're doing?
You won't have time. You're going to be leaving imminently. But, so...
But when we come back, the reconnaissance team could have gathered a lot more information on the place, yeah?
Yeah, but it may be time the World Eater is birthing, it may make, there may be some dramatic timing involved with coming back in time to
Fair enough.
Right.
it's time to go when you come back. So the directives, I think the best way forward is to plan. You can, send them off to do things, but in terms of going to get information and coming back with it, probably not. It's not going to work out.
What about? Don't we have a lot of Nashes? Do they all have dragon hearts, or is that just Nash?
Oh man, can we tap?
I'm
into
glad
that?
you asked.
We could check out Planet Nash. Yeah.
Planet Nash is a place available for you to go in your airship, and who knows what options they might present. And you would have time to swing by there before moving on. It travels fairly instantaneous, so a quick visit.
Plus, Angelashi seemed to want to go there really badly, so
She did.
maybe she could be our liaison there to set.
That's
things
something
up.
you can just decide to do. Yep, I'll make a note of it. Ask Tower Nash about Nash power.
Wait,
Remember
maybe that's
the
what the sorcerer team is. It's just a bunch of Nashes. Just
Yeah.
like, we're just gonna get through this wall.
It could be. I don't think they've all got the heart, though, right? That's one of the unique things about. Well, maybe, I don't know.
You don't have the heart, kid.
Yeah, you don't have the heart, kid. You can't do it.
Just love the idea of Dragon Nash flying along, being chased by the principal, and then principal gets shot, and yoo-hoo! Up in the top comes Nash flying in.
Just a bunch of Nashes. One of them's the tower.
Great fireball, kid. That's a 1 of a million.
Woohoo!
That's hilarious.
I love that idea.
All right, so we got Bok will attempt to be king, bring 10,000 goblins. Eddie and Syrah, we're going to find them. Tiet Kalau look for survivors, bring vehicles. Caravalon outfit lizards and anti-dragon armaments. Check for survivors of Principal City to join the revolt. And then we're going to... You can decide whether you want to visit Tower Nash and ask about Nash powers.
Then we also need to just make sure that we have one of our vehicles is... Well, I don't know. Maybe it's better to bring it on the airship. I don't know. I was just going to say, we need a, like a payload. We're going to probably need a payload that we all can guard that has the thing on it. I just don't know if we put it on the air group or on the ground group or which
You
group.
still have that wand? That you can enclose things in and float it around?
Oh, right.
That's true. I think I still do have that. Let me look.
Might be a useful little item for something like getting the triangle sphere around instead of carrying it. It doesn't shrink it for you, but it does make it weigh nothing, which would be interesting if it works.
Why do I feel like something happened to that wand?
Yeah, I don't.
I feel like I broke it and it's not in my inventory anymore.
That
I
might
know
have
it
happened.
was for a time.
Was broken.
Stanley does do dramatic things. He might have just broken the wand.
But you just got like we were there, then you fought. I don't know that you had lost it. I don't recollect a case where you.
Oh, Diane Talis timeout wand. It's right there.
Yeah.
This wand can be channeled to cause. Yeah, but it's only 2 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot.
Oh, doesn't cast a spell?
No.
Oh. Oh well, sorry.
Couldn't we also, this is a little off the beaten path, but should we need it, we do have airships, and we could get a whole lot of oil to dump upon the solar mines.
Yeah,
We
do.
wanted-
But if that's on fire, how do we get through?
Well, everyone within my aura has fire protection.
Yeah. Varel's fireproof. He doesn't understand this problem.
Like, what? So it's on fire.
Are you smoldering yet, Varel?
No,
You
only
have-
when I'm raging.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you literally smolder with heat and steam and stuff.
Nash would be concerned about that plan, as he is interested in, if possible, saving as many souls there as possible.
That's fair.
Dumping fire would not be good for that. Not that we can't, but he would have a moral opposition to that.
Counterpoint, if we drain the oil lake, I might be able to find an immovable rod.
Yeah. It's just down there waiting for you. It's like
I miss it so bad.
yeah, you gotta what's his name out there? Smeagol. Just Smeagol your way out there on a boat and get it.
All right. Well, do you want to put some pieces in place and then play around with them?
I think we got a pretty good start. You know, I think we got
said elves, dropships, and elves are going to go for the aerial assault, even if you don't know the specific instruction.
Yeah, I'd say for aerial assault, definitely elves, probably bird folk, because that just sort of makes sense.
Right, 64 bird folk. Where was so say 15 dropships. Okay.
So I would think that would be that. I think the ones we know for a fact are giants are going to have to go through the pass as simply a logistics deal.
Mm-hmm.
I think liberators, you got humans, probably better chance of driving. So I think that's where they would be. At the very least.
Okay, so we got liberators check.
And then lizard folk, did we decide if they were going through tunnels or going through the pass and maybe even trying to go through the pass early?
Oh man, all the items got destroyed. I feel like the spacesuit ruined the stealth, if I'm correct.
Well, that's true. If they're going to be outfitted, I feel like they go through the pass, like, for sure.
Yeah, let them have
So
the
they got
glory
the
of the
grappling
charge.
shoulders. They got the grappling shoulders that they could like latch onto vehicles and rip them up to shreds.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, they could even Spider-Man their way through the mountains.
And honestly, with 300 elves, that is enough elves where some elves can go through the pass.
Okay, so you don't want 300 elves up there anymore?
Well, I mean, we can. I'm just saying, like.
Oh, you're just discussing. Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, never mind me. You're discussing it, of course.
That's a lot of. That's a lot of bodies.
It's your show.
In the air.
This is the Heroes of the Waste show. I'm merely gonna note down your decisions.
And if we get 10,000 goblins, there's goblins with everybody. I feel like everybody gets a goblin or two.
Are you sure about that? Do you want goblins on a dropship?
No, make a charge.
You just
But
toss them.
What this? And the ship blows up.
Plus, I've been playing Total War Warhammer, so the idea of Commander, your goblin forces are under attack, and them all driving up in cars is just awesome.
Yeah.
They need to. They have the license. They need to make a 40K version of that game. By the way, I would love that so much. Oh my gosh, I would love it.
Okay, so we're gonna just check off the goblins for the ground assault, and everything can be changed. I'm just gonna note them there. So the lizard folk. Now we also have remaining tiefling nobieri, vampire knight. That's Monsoon, and then Diane Talis, which that you may want to think about because they may play tactical roles for you.
Well, Hope would consult Nobieri and Monsoon and ask them, because they know their powers way more than Hope would, so she would consult them and ask if they had thoughts, what they would suggest and where they would want to be.
And we can say the discussion now, like people don't have to necessarily say seated as people. Well, no, they're still discussing it. Okay, let's just picture it that way. Monsoon. Now you remember you had a vision of the time before the Scorching Hope. You actually saw the vampire knights battling dragons, where they would wear full covering and like bamf out of drop ships and fight in the air, latching onto dragons and ripping them to shreds. So. My thought, and that's given that that's Hope's firsthand experience of a vampire knight, would be that they're aerial fighters, and then once he gets on the ground, he can probably do a lot of damage on his own.
Yeah, I figure he and Nobieri are solo agents.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll say Monsoon, Cabbage, Vampire Knight on the aerial assault is. You can always change this. I'm just gonna note it down there because Vampires versus Dragons is an awesome movie that hasn't been made yet.
Now, this is going way back. to Mogfarain. Did all the skeletons fall apart there?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Because Quaz was keeping them alive, drinking the dreams of the queen there. Can't remember. Her
Okay.
name.
Because I was thinking that might be a cool place to send a guy who has zombies and such to get a little army action.
Man,
I mean,
haven't heard-
Nobieri, known for raising some zombies, he might be able to get a zombie army going.
Yeah, where would we send him for that?
Principal City.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
Principal
that's,
City's
that's
cool.
a good spot. Yeah.
For harvesting, harvesting corpses. He's a necromancer.
Yeah, I think we've got a mission for him.
He could also probably make a bunch of zombies that could carry the triangular sphere for you too, just as a thought. Be kind of slow for sure. It's like- I think a vehicle is faster, but you know.
Something about that too. It's like, "Go, look out, we're the good guys, and we're the zombies."
I think
Stanley
hope
would
to be into
feel a level of responsibility for talking everybody into bringing Diane Talis. So unless ultimately decided otherwise, he would try to keep him close to keep an eye on him.
it. So Diane Talis would be with you. So just figuring out where you're going.
Yeah.
All right. So just to cover, recap, we've got preliminarily 300 elves in the drop ships with the bird folk and monsoon cabbage on an aerial assault. We got giants, liberators, 10,000 goblins. So far, 20 vehicles, maybe more, from Tiakala, but for now, 20 vehicles on ground assault. We still didn't place anything for through the mountains or underground assault. We have lizard folk to place, and Nobieri and Diatalis. And you can place, even assuming like these things happen, we can go ahead and preemptively place Eddie and Sarah if you want as well, just and whatever Nash is bringing. And
Well,
then you
they'd
should
probably
discuss.
be,
Yeah,
they'd probably be doing an airship if they showed up. So I would think aerial for them.
Eddie and Sarah.
And for Nobieri and his undead army, they'll go in first so that we have a better understanding of where everything is. They can get us where enemies are that we can see, take
Like
the
through
first attacks.
through the mountains, basically.
Maybe, I don't know if Nobieri's powerful enough to split them up, but little contingents in all of the areas they could exist. I don't know if airship, they could do it on ground.
He would likely have to keep them nearby. I don't know. They follow his
Okay.
command. I think they're in his control. I don't think there's a range on it, actually. I think he can send them, but they only follow simple instructions.
That's fine, because all they would need to do is walk forward. And as soon as we have a better lay of where the firepower is, that could keep more of the army alive for longer. So
Yeah,
that
so-
the living aren't walking into traps or anything.
So even though we can't send anyone out for like recon on some of the stuff, then decide to do something, you could decide to send people there now, and then have that intelligence before going in to the battle. That's definitely doable. So if you wanted to send Nobieri there early with his zombies to find out information before you go in,
Yeah, totally.
yeah. So he'll be the scouting team, and zombies to scout. Any lizard folk? Lizard folk can kind of be scouts too. You split up the lizard folk at all?
To investigate things, my main concern would be they wouldn't be able to describe what they would see. So I think they're better off just being a attack force.
Okay.
Question for Nash: you said like the solar mines are very fiery. There's lots of fire, or
down deep, yes. Lots of fire.
okay.
And
Didn't we have a fish bird priest that we should contact who's all about making some water?
Yeah, Emmanuel is Fikeld is among the living tieflings on Mars.
Yeah. I think Hope's gonna have to make that request. I don't think she's gonna listen to it from me.
Imagine falling out
Hope will
of
do
affection with a person because you didn't like their god after
No,
meeting them.
okay, to be clear, we broke up long before I didn't like her god.
Right, that's true. I'm just making jokes.
I don't like your god.
Fishbird's still a sensitive subject.
But
She
she
can come. She could.
She remains a character that you can potentially use. I'm sure she would say yes.
Get all of Stanley's ex-girlfriends to show up.
Oh, I mean, the fighters from the White Tower wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, I just don't know how we get them. Also, the fighters from the White Tower. That relationship also ended a bit rough.
Oh, that's
considering
true.
I
They
altered
might
her
not like
memory.
Hope.
Yeah,
on
she
the-
won't remember though. She'll be fine with you.
Well,
Yeah.
no, the altered memory was the fight. She's still gonna go and learn that we took the artifact and left. I
Oh,
didn't alter her
yeah.
memory that we took it. I altered
yeah,
her
'cause-
memory that we fought about it.
I think Captain Rimskarim even went after you at one point. Yeah, they're aware. It's complicated for sure.
Yeah, I don't think anything
Also,
involving
going
Sigil.
to the outer planes would also just involve way more, some of you are somewhat wanted people by various factions in that world. It's better to just maybe not go there right now. Is my thinking, but
We were a little slash and burn in our time in Sigil there, so
yeah, you guys were partying.
Or
It was all
just
good.
really good at M fighting, which also apparently gets you big enemies. So, those two things.
Yeah.
But we'll say that Hope goes and talks with the priestess and sees if she can't get her to help with the plan.
Okay, and I'll just say that will she will help for sure. So just tell me, what you would like me to do with her. That works. I will write her name down. Okay, perfect. So now we've got Diane. And this stuff is not set in stone. When you come back, you can obviously make changes if the situation demands it, right? So it's just to come up with battle plans now for things that require preparation. So the Liberators will have to prepare their vehicles, et cetera, get into position, stuff like that. But there will be a chance to make an adjustment when we come back to it. So
If I had to guess, at least at this stage, Stanley is probably going to want to be in the air team in the ship
okay.
that he's captain of, because that's a useful resource to not have, which means Diane Talis would be on board with me.
Do you have a vision for what you would want Diane to tell us? You just say go?
I have no idea. It's gonna be
Because you're not sending anyone underground. Given that he's an ethereal being, he could traverse through matter, and you could send him directly underground as a one-man army to just kill everything. Although probably Nash won't like that.
No. Nash wouldn't like that.
But he would
would
make a great distraction.
He would deal with it, but he wouldn't love it.
Okay, so I've got Stanley and Diane Talis in the air. Now, given that the air is the option, this would also represent our one. I don't want to say final because that might not be true, but it might be our one final opportunity to really Mad Max it up in this campaign. So everyone being on ground assault would get that opportunity to be in vehicles, shooting fireballs at other vehicles. So I'm just putting that out there as a more meta decision about what you would want to experience.
Well, I don't want to take that away from anyone. I don't need it, but I think that's more Scott's wheelhouse. So, but I also see him being more, dragon support, and maybe, I don't know, put a dragon on the back of a flatbed truck, just shooting fire out the back.
Yeah,
It's not only do you have to decide something that's like tactically the best idea. I'm not going to try and punish poor tactical war counseling, but this really is sort of an opportunity to choose your experience as well. For me, I have a vision of a great vehicular battle, but we have spaceships in this, so they're an option available to you, as well as the sneaky version of just going in alone and doing things you could take on as well. It's up to you. It's for you to decide. And whatever we decide, because we are going to wrap up soon, so I have more that I'd like to do. We can make changes to this upon your return. This isn't a set in stone deal, but this helps me prepare for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally
Sweet.
does.
All right, so then we'll just leave where you guys will be as a decision for later. Varel, I'll just write the names for undecided. Varel, Nash, Hope, undecided. And who knows, you might have other people. You still haven't adventure yet before you. There may be other people that participate in this, so you never know. All right, I'm going to save these objects and switch the camera back. All right, so after a few hours of discussion, figuring out with everyone what the best plan is, you split the forces between the aerial assault and the ground assault, sending Nobieri to scout through the mountains. And then the list of tasks that were sent, which was Bok Bok will be attempting to be a king and bring 10,000 goblins. Someone's going to try and find Eddie and Sarah. Someone's going to look for survivors at Tiet Kala, Kervalan for the anti-dragon armaments, and check for survivors at Principal City. You may decide when you get back on your boat to go to Planet Nash to see who you can recruit there, as well as maybe other things you recruit before it begins. With that, the meeting begins puttering down to a close, and Amantha Lordar then addresses the room and says, "Everyone, thank you so much for gathering here today for the first War Council of Earthly Defenders. The heroes of the Waste will now depart on an adventure of their own to retrieve Tungsten Wheel and Globscorp for the Trianglosphere. Our mission for the rest of us will be to be ready for when they return." And he turns to the heroes of the Waste and he says, "It is of utmost importance you return with the item. Fail to do so, and this realm is lost, and all of these plans will be for naught. We will outfit you with whatever you need in terms of humble munitions that are available. And we will pray to our gods that the outcome is positive and true for our world." Now, there was one more thing before we bring this council to a close. Valironath, the Elhandar elves have met in summit to discuss the ascension of the new Seleli Prime. The results of the vote were unanimous, and it is you, Valironath, son of Dalit Ornath, for the first in our civilization, a half-elf, selected for the honor to be leader of our people. Before you may do so, you must commune with the great elder tree of Mars, Sumaslanar. Please stand.
Stanley would look a little nervous and anxious.
And all eyes are on you. One of the sun shafts from the tree above moves and forms a spotlight upon you and no one else. Valironath, you have been selected as Seleli Prime. Do you accept your charge in the name of the good of all Elhandari people?
I do.
Then let your transformation begin. And you begin to float in the air towards the center of the room. The sun, everyone darkened at the sun shaft of light, showing you to all. Your cape is billowing. You're floating as if in water, but you're in the air. Two large branches from the tree begin to grow out of the ground and move, and not disrupt or break anything, but enter into the room and form like a stem underneath you. And, the giant goes, "Whoa!" in the corner, as the stem moves up and then encompasses you in what looks like a giant Brussels sprout to everyone else on the outside. This large, giant Brussels sprout thing encompasses you. Inside, Stanley, we'll need headphones off for everyone else.
Oh.
Inside the Brussels sprout, the rainbow lights sprinkle everywhere, but they don't hurt your eye, even though it's very bright. There's this magical feeling as you float alone there. And you hear a voice enter your head that says, Young Valir Onath, I have seen your soul. I have tasted your energy. Your mind is clouded with doubt. Will you find your way to be clear in your purpose? For if you do not, you will doom your people. Thus it is written in the marks of your layers. You will have a great choice before you. And for your people, and for the salvation of your soul, as it moves to the Feywild, you must make the right choice. And for it will be your burden to bear. Now there's a prompt that's like a moment for a prompting of a response, even though a question was not asked. You have an opportunity.
All I've ever wanted to find was a place where I would belong, a home. Home is the first thing I ever knew, and it's the first thing that was ever taken from me, and it's all I've really looked for ever since. And I keep thinking I find it, and I keep losing it. And if I have doubts, it's because I can't help but feel responsible for each time I've come up short. But
Go ahead, sorry.
I want to keep trying. I have had doubts, but I want to find the right way.
It is the way of all living things to die. Where your home is on the tree of life that starts at the beginning and ends at the beginning. You are part of this chain. You are home. And you need not feel guilt, for it will be your weakness. Your world is poisoned. I feel it in my soil. Even here, far removed from Earth. The one you travel with, the one your father traveled with, Nash Magard, the being. You will need him, but he must die. And a sadness fills your soul, and maybe a resistance. Go forth and lead your people, or perish. And then your form begins to change, and you hear one final line from him. I will remake you into the form you need to be. And you feel changes in your muscles, uncomfortable, strange movements, that something is taking shape inside and out, that your body is like tree pulp, and it's moving within you, and your skin is like bark, and your eyes are filled with white light, and your head is filled with calming music of the forest. And then the Brussels sprout opens. All right, we can headphones on for everyone else.
I don't think Kyle saw it. Or maybe you did.
Oh,
no,
sorry.
Kyle's in the zone. We
Kyle.
gotta keep doing the motion.
You're in deep meditation, my friend.
Pardon me.
So, in about the span of 30 seconds, the Brussels sprout shaped thing at the top of the stem opens and recedes, and brilliant rainbow light shines and blinds everyone. And then through the brightness, as you look, you see the form of Stanley floating above, but it's Stanley changed. He looks somewhat like what he does before, but his features have become more regal. Where once his jaw might have been round, it has become sharper and harder. Where once his brow might have been uneven, it is even. Where once his hairs might have been clipped incongruently, it is now all clipped correctly. His ears are full elven and poking brightly through his locks. Stanley has become the Solelli Prime, and as such has earned. One moment, looking up. Sorry, no, an unbreakable majesty. Stanley, you've earned your 14th level feat early, even though we're all 13th level. You have earned your unbreakable majesty feat now, and your appearance is now shaped differently. It is more handsome, it is more regal and noble, in a not quite a Megatron to Galvatron way, but also kind of, yeah. Like you look like you, but you look different. And I'll leave it to you to imagine what that difference might be, so you can describe it for us. If not now, then next week.
Yeah, I looked ahead, as you know,
Mhm.
and I saw this was coming, so I thought about it. So Stanley's features become somewhat more washed out, like his skin almost seems to glow a bit, and his hair is darker, longer, and the odd thing about his appearance is that you tend to see features that you find appealing. So if you find a masculine form more appealing, you would think, "Oh man, he's got what a chiseled jaw he's got. Like look at that. He's not bad." But if you find a more, feminine form appealing, you think, that hair, he's got soft features, he's got nice eyes. Like, it's just whatever you tend to find. Like, even somebody like Varel would be like, I never noticed before, but Stanley's pretty toned and he moves kind of like a predator, so that's okay. Like, it's not full on attraction, but it's just like, all right. And you just sort of see whatever is in your heart is reflected now, almost as if he's a blank canvas and you're projecting your own likes upon it. And his eyes have gone full, almost reflective silver.
Badass.
The elves all around kneel before you.
Stanley will look and kind of realize that they're looking for something from him.
Yeah, maybe you can tell them. Maybe you can say something like "rise."
He'll say, "To learn that my ascension was a unanimous one was an interesting thing. I don't feel that I have earned my place among you, but I shall strive now to do so. You all kneel before me, but I think it is premature. Stand. We have much to do." And that was all in Elvish.
Cool, badass. The elves all stand. They rise, and they look at you with pride, and they're glowing. They are happy with their new leader. The bird folk kind of fidget a little bit. They're a little bored.
Yeah, they're birds.
Yeah. Yes, you are now the Solelli Prime, and Amantha Lodar approaches you and reaches out his hand and says, "I am grateful you've accepted this charge. Your father would be proud. In his time, he might have been considered for such an honor. But we haven't had a Solelli Prime since the Scorching. You are our first. I've helped our people as a spiritual guide, But these are times of war, and you were raised in the harshest of places. They will need your leadership to see this through. And then on his right side, a younger elf woman who still might be in his 80s for elf, or her 80s for elf, approaches, spear in hand, by his side. And he says, as is tradition, the Solele Prime must take on... Where did I write that? Must take on... Oh no. My notes. No. It's hard to remember. Shit. Oh yeah, there it is. As is tradition, the Solele Prime must take on the Balele Kun.
Oh, well, now I know why you didn't remember it.
Yeah. The Balele Kun is hand in glove of the Solele Prime. This is Union Wheel. You are now her charge to protect with her life. And she will accompany you at all places. And she moves forward, stands, bows, and then takes a place at your side slightly behind you.
Did you say the last name is Wheel? Like the person we're looking for?
Yeah, it struck you as curious.
Stanley would turn and point exactly that out. Wheel, like tungsten.
Yes, Solele. Tungsten Wheel is my uncle. But I assure you that's not why I'm with you. I have trained all my life and surpassed all others in combat to become the Balele Kun. With real weapons, I assure you.
Stanley will give a nod.
She takes her place behind you. And with that, everyone, we will adjourn this war council. I thank you all for your faith and your strength. The heroes of the Waste will now traverse the stars to find Tungsten Wheel and the Globscorp. In the meantime, we will return you to where you are fortified and send word upon his return. Amass your forces, spread the word. The more we have to face the principle and the forces of the solar mines, even slightest chance of success, we need it. And with that, the room brightens to normal sunbeam levels, and people begin talking and moving out of the room to make plans. I think this, as we approach the end of this week's show, this is a good vista to leave it on. The assemblage of the War Council of Earthly Defenders conversing post-meeting as the camera zooms out, showing the glade and the tree Sumar Selenar. Into the great beyond, in space.
Space!
Next week, Blast Belly Rock.
Oh.
Maybe. It's up to you guys, actually. I shouldn't say that.
Oh, all right.
Well, I'd say probably likely.
Next week, we get back to adventure. The drama is over, everyone, and it's time to D some D, if you know what I D.
Yeah, I know what you D. You keep that D to your... No, keep the D... Whip your D out. That's what we're trying to say.
Keep the D in the D. Keep the D in the D.
That'll be next week, everybody. That means don't miss out. It's going to be awesome. I feel this incredible moment coming all toward us like a runaway truck, and it feels good. So watch for that coming up on a future episode. In the meantime, if you like what we do here and you want to throw us an extra couple of bucks, you can do that by joining our our Dungeons Plus membership, which you can find at therewillbedungeons.com. It's super easy to sign up for. I just sent out the latest art for the month, and I'm really happy with it. If you're like, ooh, that's intriguing, what's that about? Go find out therewillbedungeons.com. Speaking of which, there will be a bonus show for supporters today. So next week, everyone else has to wait, but today, supporters get it right away. Just another reason to support us. All right, that's going to do it. Thank you for listening. For all of us, to all of you. We'll see you then. This show is part of the Frog Pants Network.
Frog Pants Network.
Get more shows like this at frogpants.com. Nicely done, everyone.